You ever have that moment right after you say something where you just wish you could hit rewind? Yeah, we've all been there. It's wild how the words we pick can either make us sound confident and smart, or they can totally sabotage us. And a lot of the time, we don't even know it's happening.
So let me tell you this story I heard. Picture this, a big conference. On one hand, you've got this Nobel-nominated neuroscientist. We're talking multiple PhDs, tons of research, and he's up there saying things like, I might be wrong about this, but just super humble. And then, at the same conference, you have a first-year grad student who says, with a straight face, that quantum mechanics is basically simple, right? The difference between those two people, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
See, here's the thing. Being truly smart isn't about knowing everything. Nope. It's actually about knowing what you don't know. It's the huge gap between that expert mindset, which is all about curiosity and seeing the gray areas, and the novice mindset, which, tends to lean on being overly certain and just brushing off anything complicated.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through 5 key things to sharpen up how you communicate. First, we'll cover the foundation of what makes communication smart. Then we'll dive into phrases that just kill a conversation. After that, we'll tackle those little words that weaken your authority. Then we'll get into the trap of trying way too hard with fancy words. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with how to make this stuff work for you.
All right, let's jump right in. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what to say and what not to say, we got to talk about the foundation. Because it's not about memorizing big words or having perfect grammar. It's way, way deeper than that. And that foundation, it all comes down to emotional intelligence. Think of it as the secret sauce that decides how people actually hear what you're saying. It's the difference between connecting with someone and, well, pushing them away. It's like this internal filter that smart communicators use to know what to say, and maybe even more crucially, what to keep to themselves.
Okay, so now that we've got that idea of emotional intelligence in our back pocket, let's get into the first big category of verbal traps. These are the phrases that basically scream a lack of emotional intelligence. They can make you sound kind of arrogant, and they just slam the door on any real conversation.
Okay, let's break these down because what's so wild is how much hidden meaning is packed into these super common phrases. When you say, as I said before, what you're really saying is, weren't you listening the first time? I told you so. That's just pure ego, right? It's about feeling superior. That's just common sense is my favorite. It's usually a shortcut for, I don't really want to think about this too hard. And oh boy, no offense, but we all know that's just the preamble for something totally offensive. And using these phrases is really just a mental shortcut. It's way easier to just dismiss something as not common sense than it is to actually grapple with it, right? To think about the details. It just stops any real conversation dead in its tracks. And honestly, it says a lot more about our own need to feel right than it does about actually trying to understand another person's point of view.
All right, next up, let's talk about the silent assassins of our speech. These are those little sneaky filler words that creep into our sentences without us even noticing, and they just completely drain our authority. It's like we're putting a discount sticker on our own ideas before we even get them out.
Just is probably the biggest offender. When you say, I just want to say something, it's like you're apologizing for having an opinion at all. Then you have kind of and sort of. They make you sound so unsure. And what about seemed or felt? Think about it. Instead of saying she was upset, saying she seemed upset puts this little layer of doubt there. You're not stating a fact, you're stating your interpretation, and that instantly waters down your point.
So what's the fix? It's actually super simple, but it takes practice. The next time you feel one of those filler words about to pop out, just stop, pause, take a breath. Seriously, that little moment of silence makes you sound so much more confident and thoughtful. It gives your brain a second to catch up and makes what you say next land with so much more impact.
Okay, so we've talked about words that make us sound weak. Now let's flip the script and talk about the other side of the coin, the trap of trying way too hard. This is when we pull out the big, complicated words to sound smart, and it totally backfires. I mean, come on, we've all sat through that meeting, right? The one where someone's talking about leveraging synergy for a paradigm shift. It sounds important, but what does it actually mean? Most of the time, these are just fluffy buzzwords. They're used to make simple ideas sound really complex. I mean, why on earth would you say utilize when you can just say use or commence instead of just start? And this right here, this quote, just nails it.
The true sign of intelligence isn't using a bunch of fancy words to confuse people. It's the exact opposite. It's knowing something so well, so deeply, that you can break it down and explain it in a way that anyone can understand. This is such a great way to visualize it. Look at the left side. That's what happens when you use all that jargon. You're basically sending your listener on a trip through a confusing maze. They're going to get lost, and your message, it's never going to get through. But look at the right side. When you use simple, direct words, it's like building a straight, sturdy bridge right to your point. I mean, which route do you want your ideas to take? It's a no-brainer, right?
Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we put it into practice? Let's break it down into a really simple process you can start using like right now. It's really just 3 little steps. Number 1, pause. Before you just blurt something out, take a beat. Just a second. Number 2, ask yourself a simple question. What am I really trying to say here? Get to the core of it. And number 3, choose. Pick the clearest, simplest words to get that idea across. Don't go for the word that sounds the smartest. Go for the word that's going to be understood the best. And that's really the bottom line, isn't it? The whole goal here isn't to sound smart. It's to be understood. Communication isn't a performance where you're trying to impress people. It's about making a connection. It's about clarity. And the funny thing is, when you stop trying to sound smart and just focus on being clear, you end up sounding incredibly intelligent anyway.
So, I'm going to leave you with this to think about. After everything we've talked about, what's the one verbal habit, that one word or phrase that you're going to try to change? Just pick one. Because that little bit of self-awareness, that decision to be more intentional with your words, well, that's where the real smarts are.